was September 21st, 2017. It was a very cold night, and in the air, a neighbor could be described hearing 2 gunshots, and then it was eerily quiet. Gregory Green sat down on his front porch and waited. A few minutes later, 4 or 5 different police officers pulled up in their cars, and Gregory Green stood up, no contest, put his hands behind his back, and was taken away. First responders and police officers hurriedly rushed inside the house, and what they saw next would make them have to have counseling for the next 5 years and would never leave their minds for the rest of their lives. I'm Detroit AllyCat, and without further ado, let's get spooky. This is Detroit AllyCat. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm just a small-time true crime channel that likes to talk about local murders, mystery, unboxings, witchcraft stuff, all of the above. Thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah. So last night I was in bed and I was watching this channel and a commercial pops up. I watch true crime nonstop. It actually drives everyone in my house completely crazy. They want to know how I can watch the stuff that I do without like feeling sick inside. They think that it's gross and yucky, and you know what? They're right. It is kind of gross and yucky. I don't know why. I have been called to love true crime. I pray to the gods that it never happens to me or anyone that I love, but I truly feel that if you dissect things, that you'll be able to figure out how to prevent things. So I guess that was my explanation. But anyway, go back to the commercial. It said there will be 230 child murders in the United States this year, and there will be 800,000 missing children in the United States this year. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I had no idea that many children went missing. And you know, you don't hear about them. And it also went on to say that only 3% of those types of crimes will make it in the media, which is incredible. And then it went to describe the types of crimes that do make it in the media and why. So the most devastating that they are is the better for media, because you actually feel a relief in the fact that you are not part of this crime. It's some kind of fight or flight mechanism that happens after you watch something like that, and the media sources pick up on it and they breed on it. But the thing that just like astounded me was the numbers of the crime that we don't hear about, because we're all sitting here freaking out about this illness that's going on, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, like 900,000 people have been affected. Well, I mean, that's terrible, yes, but what would you do if I told you that many people went missing or more? I mean, it's just as terrible, is it not? If not worse, because, you know, you can get better from getting sick, but can you get better from being kidnapped? Maybe. But will you ever forget it? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought about that while I was preparing today. I don't feel my normal self. I've been pretty sick for the last few days. I got a chest cold and I'm pretty pale. So I apologize if I look like a skeleton or whatever else. The only reason I tell you this is because you might see me edit my video to wipe my nose, which always runs when I wear makeup because I'm allergic to the thing that I love most. So anyway, going back to the other thing, I really wanted to talk about a couple other things. So the last video that I did was the MMIW, and it really hit me kind of hard because it's definitely not my least looked at video, but not my most looked at video. It is one of those types of videos where there's not a lot of coverage about this situation, And I felt the call to educate people around me or whoever watches my channel about this because I felt very strongly. If you didn't know, the MMIW is the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women. It's both very prevalent here in the United States and Canada. I'm not sure of any other countries, but it's a very big problem and one that not many people are aware of. I want to explain to you how I do the research on these things. So what I typically do is I research these things for a pretty long time before I talk about them, probably a couple months, and I really let it sit in and hit my heart. So I'll read about it, I'll watch videos about it, and I'll let my mind soak in the information, and I will basically just decide one day that, you know what, this is the day that I'm going to talk about this. And sometimes I don't even write notes. I just repeat what I remember, and it's from the heart. And I think that that's a good and a bad thing. The bad thing is that sometimes I can get some things wrong. So if I get something wrong and you know something about this, please do not hesitate to correct me. Put information on here for me. I will be the first to admit that I'm wrong about something, and I never want to offend anybody. However, on the same note, if you decide to go on my YouTube channel and try to talk down to me and be mean to me, I'm just going to block you. I really am. Because life is too short to listen to mean people. If you have something intelligent that you want to tell me and help me tell other people, I'm 100% that person that I will meet you there and listen to you, and I will never put my ego above the fact that I could be wrong, because I can be wrong. I'm just one person, and there are so many cases and there is so much information out there that it really is there's never a chance that I'm 100% right. In fact, the news coverage that I could watch or read, they could be wrong too. And there's a chance that you coming at me with the information that you so think is correct, it could be wrong too. And that's why it's important that we all work together to make sure that that information is correct. I just wanted to put that out there. So in bed a long time ago, I came upon a case that really rocked my world, I guess you might say. It's a case of a family annihilator, and one of the most famous cases of a family annihilator is John List. If you don't know that case, look it up. That's one of the most famous. It'll explain what that is. But basically, a family annihilator is somebody who kills their entire family for whatever reasons. And there's many, many different reasons. But today, we're going to talk about a family annihilator that was here in Michigan, and his name was Gregory Green. And, you know, I like to tie everything that I talk about together. And the thing is that the one thing about Gregory Green that really struck me too is, you know, I talked about how I see all this information online that people don't know about. Well, there's really not very much about Gregory Green. Like, I never knew that there was a family annihilator here in Dearborn Heights, but there was. So let's dive into this case, because I think my prequel has been pretty big. Gregory Green is a very interesting character, and before we talk about what Gregory Green did in present time, or at least 4 years ago, we need to talk about what he did in 1992. It's very important. Gregory Green, in 1992, he was with his 6-month pregnant girlfriend and his other kids, and he decided to stab her to death, and he went to prison for 16 years. So Fred Harris actually visited Gregory Green. He had decided that it was part of God's will that he help parolees or prisoners find their way to Jesus or Christ and lead better lives and be better people. And so he actually ended up speaking for this prisoner who had been denied parole 4 times, and said that he basically felt that, Gregory Green had repented for his sins and now was a better person, and that they should let him out. And he basically vouched for him and said, hey, this guy is good. And when he got out, actually, Gregory Green met Fred Harris's daughter. Her name was Faith Green, and ended up marrying her. Gregory Green was paroled in 2018, and his parole ended in 2010, and he actually ended up getting married to Faith Green in 2010, which is pretty quick, but hey, some people do things that way. Faith Green actually had 2 children prior to marrying Gregory Green. They were Kara and Chadney, also known as CJ, and they were from a previous relationship. So as Gregory Green and Faith Green stayed together, they ended up having 2 children, Kaylee and Coy. The relationship had actually ended up being turbulent, and Faith Green had filed for divorce multiple times, saying that her husband was having these fits of rage. He had actually kicked the couch when the baby was on the couch. She did it twice. She filed for divorce in 2013, and then she filed for divorce in 2014. And in both of these cases, both divorces were not finished because Faith Green had never gone back. Faith Green had also tried to get a PPO against Gregory Green, saying that, she needed to be protected, but they had said in the case or at court that she couldn't have a PPO because there was not enough evidence of the things that she was stating. Faith Green actually filed a divorce again in 2016, and it would actually arrive at their house on the fateful day that Greg Green made his move. When Greg Green made his move, Kaylee was 4, Coy was 5, Kara was 17, and Chadney CJ was 19. All of the neighbors said that the children were all very well behaved. They were all very kind, respectful, and they were basically the light of the neighborhood. Everyone loved them, and they said that the family was just so sweet. In the driveway from the day that this happened on September 21st, there were happy birthday signs and all kinds of things out there because they just had a birthday party for one of the children. The area that we're talking about, it's important to talk about this area. It was like a little carport, and you could actually see the sign like happy birthday. But what's weird about this area is the family car was actually parked in the carport area that day. And neighbors will say that that is not a normal thing, and it was never parked in that area. And the reason why this is so very important is that this is part of the way that Gregory Green ended up killing his children. I guess Faith Green had filed for a divorce a month prior, and he decided that that was not going to work out, that that was not God's plan. He needed a mate that would be there with him through thick or thin, through it all, because that's what God wanted. At least that's what he stated when he was asked by the judge, do you have anything to say for yourself? And that's what he said. So I don't know when exactly the killings occurred, but I do know about 2 nights before, Gregory Green actually went to Home Depot and purchased the stuff to fix the car. He took a tube and hooked it up to the back tailpipe and made the tube go into the car and placed both of his children, Coy and Kaylee, in the car, and they basically died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Once they were dead, he then took them back inside and put them in their bed and tucked them in just like they were sleeping. So he ended up taking Faith Green and he put her in the basement and basically tied her up on a pole. You know, those poles you have in the basement that hold your house up. And he took Kara and Chadney, CJ, tied them behind their backs, and shot them close range execution style and made their mother watch as they died. Also, it's important to note that Gregory Green went up to Faith, I don't know if it was before or after, and cut her face ear to ear and shot her in the foot. I believe that he probably tortured her while this was all happening, and I'm not sure how it was led up to. Can you imagine just sitting there watching your two kids being shot execution style and then basically having someone scream at you and cut your face and then shoot you in the foot? After he did all this, he just went upstairs, called the police, and basically sat on the front porch and waited for the police to come. When he was taken away, the judge actually basically filed that he would get the most time that his sentence deserved, and that way they were not able to go to court, which was really good because Faith Green was pretty traumatized. She had short-term memory, PTSD. She went on stand and did a victim impact statement for the judge, and she was mostly noted for being very stoic, but I just don't know how anybody would react to something like that. I feel like your body would just go into shock. Yeah, it just was really actually kind of horrible, the whole situation. But if you don't know what stoic means, is that she didn't really show a lot of emotion. She didn't cry. She did a couple interviews after this all happened, and she was the same way. She didn't cry. Many people wrote to the family, and basically there was a lot of donations. The family saved every single letter that came to them. Faith felt that she had to read every single letter. She tried to go on the news to thank very important people that had done very great things. Like, I know that the two littlest, Kaylee and Coy, ended up getting 2 headstones donated to their burial. They also got 2 dresses donated to them. And, Faith wanted to personally say thank you to everybody because she felt it necessary, but she was unable to remember. And she said basically the reason she couldn't remember stuff is because she has PTSD. It's kind of a hard case to talk about because a lot of them, there seems to be reasons why or something like that, but there wasn't very much information about this case, like the backup, except for about Faith Green and her family, and the fact that her father was actually a pastor of their church, and he was the one who actually got Gregory Green paroled, and that's how they met. Other than that, there really wasn't much. They did interview the 2 older children, Kara and CJ. Their father, who I felt the worst for because he didn't even know that this man had been convicted of murder prior and he had been living with his children. He said that he had no idea that his children were going to be taken away from him so soon, and he just had so many regrets. So I don't know, I feel like most stories need to be told because there's a reason why you can learn something. This really is one of the most senseless crimes that I've investigated or researched. And the only thing I can tell you is that, like, when you go dating other people, maybe look into their past because it's very important, especially someone that's murdered somebody. It's so very easy to think that, like, this person has changed and they're not going to do this to me, but the fact of the matter is sometimes old habits die hard. I do know that Greg Green will never get out while he's alive. He's here serving in Wayne County. And to hear his statements in court of if the judge said, "Do you have anything to say?" is really chilling. He said God has a plan for him. God always has a plan for somebody like that, don't they? I believe in what I believe, and I believe we all kind of believe the same thing, even though we put different names on it. I believe that there is a plan for Gregory Green, but I don't think it's what he thinks it's going to be. That's the story of Gregory Green. It's important that you guys hear about it, and you guys know about it. There's nobody who's done it on YouTube. At least there's one other guy who's done it, but I don't think he's done it quite the way I did. I really hope that you enjoyed this story. I hope you can learn something from this story. It's a really hard story to listen to. It was a hard story to research. It felt like a good one to do in the middle of the week. Hopefully I'll have something for you guys on Saturday. And if you sat here listening to me this entire time, I really appreciate it. I'm excited about Halloween coming up. I am going to be doing a bunch of different spooky things, and if you think there's something that I should cover, I would love if you put it in the comments below. I really hope you did find this video informational. I very much wanted to cover it because I felt like the children's stories needed to be heard. I hope that Faith Green, who's probably now Faith Harris, has recovered as much as she can and is leading a beautiful life and getting through this. And, you know, I hope you guys have an amazing day. And if you enjoyed it, or if you found this informational, please think about subscribing, leaving a comment, liking the video. There are so many of you guys that watch my video and do not like it. Which, I mean, I'm glad that you're not disliking it, but if you want to like it, that would be great too. Anyway, have a great night. As always, stay spooky and stay safe.